I just finished making a beat with Logic Pro X drum synth, and in this video we're going to break it down so you can get to know some of the features and use them to make your own beats. Here we go. What is up? This is Jake with Musician on a Mission, and today I put together a beat using nothing but the drum synth inside of Logic Pro. So first we're going to listen to it and then we'll break it down piece by piece and I'll show you exactly what I did to get these sounds. Let's take a listen. Cool. So now let's just take a peek under the hood. I'll just walk you through each track from top to bottom, starting with the kick. So let's go ahead and click on the drum synth here, and it brings up our kick. So we've got a heavy kick going on here. All right, so up here you've got your menu, we're on kicks, and I've got a heavy kick with these settings. You've got a pitch control. You've got a tone. You've got a shape. A sweep. You've got a decay here. So we can do like a super short kick or super long. You've got saturation, so we can really dirty this up. So if you're looking for like that grittier kind of sound, then you've got some volume. And we'll talk about key tracking and modes on another track here. So basically, from these kicks, you've got heavy, hard, punch, air, and tight. They've all got different sounds. I encourage you to experiment with all of them. And then you've got a whole bunch of different presets here that you can start from and then tweak around. So that's our kick. Let's move on to our snare. So I'm on Snappy Snare here. See a lot of the same kind of controls. We've got pitch here. Tone. Body. We can make this a little dirtier. I wanted it a little cleaner. And then you can adjust the decay here. And again, you can choose from a whole bunch of different options here. Air snare, electronic snare, mechanical clap, side stick, a whole bunch of stuff. Smooth a hi-hat. Let's take a look at that. So I've got this tone knob doing some automation. I wrote in some automation and I did it with my mouse. I just clicked and dragged and went So actually, I'll show you how to do that right now. You can see it all kind of mapped out here. So you can write it in if you want to, but this is how I did it. Grab this, went to the beginning of the track, and I made sure that my automation mode was on latch. And then I just dragged this tone knob left and right to kind of create that sweeping effect. Check it out. Let's do it right now. Cool, right? So now let's take a look at the automation. You can see everything I did there is now written in. So we can go ahead and set that to read and watch it play out. Cool. Let's cycle that. And let's see, what else did we do here? For hi-hat, you've got a whole bunch of different kind of controls here. So character. And actually, I'm going to turn off this automation here so we can explore some of these other settings. You've got a crush. It sounds like a bit crusher. Got the tone, which we talked about, your attack. So you can delay the attack a little bit. Gonna make it a little bit more gradual so it doesn't hit as hard, but I want it to hit as hard to keep it there. You've got a decay. So if you want a longer hat, you can do that. I want to keep it nice and short. And then you can dirty it up. I want it a little dirty, but not too dirty. So let's turn that automation back on. Here what we got so far. Cool. Let's add in this smooth hi-hat here. See what that sounds like. So I actually copied this smooth hi-hat down, just copied the track down, all the same settings, with the exception of one setting here. I actually moved this from mono into gate mode. Okay, so gate mode means that sample is gonna trigger until you release your finger from the MIDI keyboard or until the MIDI note is actually stopped, right? Let me show you an example of this. If I had this on mono, take a listen. You can hear that that decay lasts until right about here, even though the MIDI note's only that long. It just goes ahead and decays right until about this point. Right? That's where the sound cuts off. Now we can adjust that decay to only be as long as we want it. Or we can put it on gate mode here, and the sound's gonna stop right where the MIDI note stops. And then we can shorten this note. Or we can make it longer. I liked it right there. I wanted that note to end right where this other hi-hat started to hit. So that's just an example of how you can use gate for your sounds. And actually, cool. So there's another mode down here called poly, and that just means you can do more than one MIDI note at a time. So I can do, I can hit, 4 of these all at the same time, and it's going to trigger 4 samples, right? But if I have it on mono mode, it only triggers the last sample. Right? So if I hit this A, and then I go and hit that F, this A is actually going to get cut off by the next time I trigger the note. That sample stops playing once this note is hit, right? Rather than in poly, both of those samples are allowed to play at the same time. A better way to explain it is that mono means you can only have one sample playing at a time. And poly, you can have more than one. So let's keep it on gate. Cool. Sounds good so far. So then on the back half of this beat, we've got the shaker coming in. Right on the 2s and 4s there. So let's pop that open. This is under the percussion section. You've got a few different options here. Deep tom, metal machine, 80s cowbell, membrane, tight tom, and shaker. We're on shaker. We've got a tone control. We've got a crush. And now that we're not as crushed, this tone control will probably sound like something. But I wanted it crushed all the way. I didn't want this shaker as up front because it was competing with the hi-hat. So I've got this hi-hat just kind of like sitting right up in your face. And by adding the crush on the shaker, it kind of pushes the shaker back in the mix. That way these two elements aren't competing, but we still have some kind of rhythmic give and take here. We've got an attack control on this too. So again, when I was thinking about this beat, I was thinking, my hi-hats have some pretty hard attack to them, like immediately. So I thought, let's delay the transient a little bit on this and kind of let it gradually come in. So it's more of a kind of gradual sh rather than a t. So again, contrast between this shaker element and the hi-hat element, just kind of keeping them separate. Cool. And we've got a decay here, which isn't doing much now because you'll see we've got it in gate mode again. See, if I change that to mono, it lets the sample play out. You can kind of increase the decay. And actually, we can keep that decay up all the way if we wanted to. Change it to gate, and it's only going to play as long as the MIDI node is. Cool. And then you got a dirt. Oh, I wanted it all the way down. See, as soon as you turn that dirt up, all of a sudden it starts competing for the front space with the hi-hat. So to keep kind of like that front to back relationship happening, give that sense of depth, contrast, keep that dirt all the way down. Cool. So that is shaker. Let's talk about the hard kick. Let's narrow in. So we've got a lot of the same controls here. We've got a pitch control. We've got a tone. We got a sweep. We got a body. Kind of a Stranger Things thing happening there, right? Decay. Saturation. And you'll notice here I've got key tracking turned on. So let's talk about this setting real quick. This hard kick kind of sounds as if it were a tom fill. I just liked the sound of the hard kick more than the tom options. There are toms in here. See, you've got tight tom, you've got deep tom, but I liked this hard kick. I thought that was cool. I had key tracking on, and that actually does exactly what it says. It tracks the keys. It'll pitch your percussion based on the notes that you play. So you can hear that the pitch goes down as I go down in notes on the keyboard. Now, if I turn that off, it's one solid sample no matter where I play it on the keyboard. Right? Let's turn it back on. So it gives it some pitch, okay? Super cool feature. I think that's it for this hard kick fill. Moving on, human clap. Pretty straightforward clap. And let's just get a little bit of a tighter loop here and go over some settings. We got pitch. Tone. Noise. So I wanted this noise up. Again, same idea as the shaker and the hi-hat. This clap is happening at the same time as this snappy snare. So I actually wanted it to kind of sit in the background and have a more of a distant sound just to kind of supplement the snare. So the snare sits up front and the human clap sits back behind the snare. So I wanted to add some sustain there to make that happen. Hear that snare, it's right up front, and then we add that clap, which sounds like it's further back in the mix. Cool, right? So you also have this crush control. Another bit crusher kind of thing going on. You got decay. That's pretty sick. Yeah, I like that longer decay. I'm going to keep it like that for now. And then you have key tracking option. You got your modes, your mono, poly, and your gate. So something to pay attention to in just your music in general, whether it's a beat or anything, whatever, or transitions, they can really help to kind of bring your song ideas and your songs to the next level, right? Kind of give it that professional polish. I always think in terms of transitions afterwards. So I get kind of like the meat down and then think about transitions last. So I came up with this little crash cymbal transition from this 4 bars here transitioning into the next 4 bars of the loop. Take a listen. Right? Just a very simple kind of a reverse kind of effect. I'll show you how I created that inside of Drum Synth. Take a look. So we did some more tone automation here. Right? If I open that up, you'll see I've got the tone at 0 here, and then I wrote in another point right there at 100, and it's kind of curving exponentially here. So I use the automation curve tool, zoom in on this guy, and that's usually what it would look like, right? Straight. But I thought it was a little bit more impactful if I put a little bit of a curve into it. Right? It gets way more exciting right around this point here. So it's slow rise and then whoop, as opposed to just a straight volume increase, right? So I brought that down, and that's automated with the tone. We have a pitch option here, like most of the other samples. We've got a body option. If I didn't want it as bright, I would take down the body a little bit. We've got decay and your standard volume, key tracking, and gate. But that's it. Just a little bit of simple automation to kind of make that effect happen. Let's listen to it in context. Pretty cool. Let's check out this ride cymbal last. Pop this guy open. So we've got pitch all the way down at 24. And you see we've got some more automation here. I kind of did a sweep down kind of effect here. So let's take a look at the tone. And this one was okay, being just like straight line. I didn't need a curve or anything like that in that automation. So you can kind of hear again, just kind of like a transition kind of effect. Helped to create a little bit more of an impact at the beginning of that beat, especially when the end loops into it, right? So if you were to kind of envision a real drummer playing drums and playing a drum fill with toms, at the end of that, the drummer would probably hit a crash cymbal, right? I mean, I would. I'm a drummer, so I mean, that's what I would do. So I kind of wanted to mimic that with this beat. So we've got this kind of tom fill here, and that goes into this crash here. Let's take a listen. There it is. All right, so I kind of wanted to mimic the sound of a real drummer and create a little bit more impact from the end of the beat to the beginning of the beat. So we've got pitch, we've got tone we talked about, and then we have a few more options here. Body, decay, volume. Dissonance is a different one. We haven't talked about that yet, so let's take a listen. You can hear it's kind of like a bit crushing kind of effect. Now let's turn the tone up a little bit. It's got like a kind of a downsampling thing going on. It might be cool to automate that a little bit, right? If you're doing like more textural kind of electronic music, maybe some dubstep. Some cool opportunities for automation with that knob right chair. Okay, so now that you know what went into making this beat, let's take one more listen. Cool. So that's a practical example of how you might use Drum Synth to make your next beat. I encourage you to try it out for yourself. Now, after you're done making your beat, there's a whole bunch of other things to consider if you want your music to sound professional, right? So that's why my friend Rob, the founder of Musician on a Mission, put together a free workshop where he shares the 7 steps to making radio-ready music at home. And what you're going to see inside is that Rob shares a completely new approach to home recording and mixing that's going to help you produce at a professional standard much, much faster. Over 36,000 people have already been through the workshop. They've seen results in a matter of days. So if you want to avoid wasting time, money, and effort on the wrong things, and you want to learn the exact 7 steps that are going to take your mixes to that pro level in under a year, then make sure to check out that workshop now. It's completely free. You can either click the link you see on the screen or head to the link in the description. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. This is Jake with Musician on a Mission, signing off. And remember, create regardless.